Trump versus the GOP again. That's the focus of tonight's angle. When will they learn? More than a year into President Trump's first term, you'd think that all the Republicans would understand that the only way forward is to unify behind his agenda. It's resonating with the people, it's bringing international foes to the negotiating table, and it's having a positive impact on the economy. But some Republicans cannot help but lend aid and comfort to the president's political enemies. So as Trump slowly but surely begins to remake the GOP to be more responsive to working-class Americans, the globalist wing of the party is still in total denial. And the old guard's resistance to Trump, of course, big shocker, is being amplified by a media machine that's been trying to take him down ever since he first came down that golden escalator. Just watch how uncomfortable some of these Republicans are when pressed about whether they'd support the president again in 2020.
Any Republican senator that hasn't been conflicted over this presidency is either comatose or is pretty useless in their blindness.
You're prepared at this point to endorse the president for re-election in 2020?
I haven't even thought about that election.
You know it's way too early to be talking about the 20. Yes, it is, Chris.
It isn't. Not to say that you support the guy who's president, who's the head of your party.
It could be a completely different world by 2020. We have a 2018 election first.
Rather than just rallying behind the president in a show of total unity before the midterms, some in the party end up just giving the media what they want, a storyline about a divided GOP.
The Republican Party of Abraham Lincoln's time is centered in the South. And Trump is a guy from New York, always somewhat alien territory to conservatives.
This reflects a division not only within the Republican Party with the approach to Russia, but within his own administration.
Would you rather have the Republican Party of Paul Ryan or Trump? I mean, that's the question right now.
Well, I don't know what there's no choice. It's the Republican Party of Donald Trump, which is why Paul Ryan's leaving.
But the truth is, if you want to see real disunity, look at the Democrats. They have no real leader. They've moved so far left, they've left America. And they're reduced now to either silly antics or stammering in their attempts to rile up their base.
It's a scam. The tax bill that gives 83% of the benefits to the top 1%. They try to call it a middle-class tax cut, and yet 86 million middle-class families in the life of this bill will be paying more taxes.
We'll bring in an interpreter next time. Well, the Democrats, come on, they're so desperate. They've now sued the Trump campaign, WikiLeaks, and of course the Russians over Hillary Clinton's loss in 2016.
Donald Trump has been saying for a year plus, this is all about sour grapes. It's all because you lost an election. What says that better than the Democratic National Committee suing them and saying, you lost us this election? So you see, like David Axelrod saying, it seems like a waste of time and resources.
Of course it is. The Democrats can't even agree on a political strategy. Tom Perez and the DNC are filing lawsuits while other prominent liberals are just shaking their heads, fretting over their re-election prospects. Senator Claire McCaskill told the St. Louis Post-Dispatch that the DNC lawsuit is just a silly distraction. And Congresswoman Jackie Speier, hardly a moderate, she said this.
I actually think this lawsuit is ill-conceived, and I'm not very supportive of it.
That is what real disunity looks like. So beyond all the bluster and all the media attacks on the president, Trump's re-election numbers, check them out. They actually look pretty good. They mirror those of Barack Obama and Bill Clinton at about the same point in their presidencies. Today's Gallup reports that among registered voters, 37% believe Trump should be reelected. That's the same percentage that thought Barack Obama should be reelected in 2010, and at 1 point lower than those that supported Bill Clinton in '94. Big deal. Well, last time I checked, both Obama and Clinton were reelected for a second term, right? Here's another leading indicator that the Democratic National Committee might be in some trouble. Well, they took out a $1.7 million loan in February. So their fundraising, a good measure of voter excitement, is pathetic. Meanwhile, the Republican National Committee took in a whopping $39 million in the first quarter alone. Think that might be because of the president? Well, of course, the president has some work to do. He still has to grow the populist movement, take his message to unfriendly territory, and sell it. That means even in states where he didn't win, grow his base. But while the Democrats are in perpetual teardown and resistance mode, I'm telling you, Trump should be perceived as a doer. He is. A leader who will always defy and drain the swamp, will not be defeated by it. That's why he was elected in the first place. All the president needs to do is just stay focused on what matters: growing the economy, returning more power to the people, fighting corruption along the way, and refusing to be distracted or deterred by the constant and tedious demonization game of Washington and the seemingly endless, pointless investigations. I know that's easier said than done, but he needs to do that. Now, listen to all the naysayers you want, but Trump's reelection prospects and those of his party are on more solid ground than the media or his critics would have you believe. And that's The Angle.